Hi, welcome to the F1 Time Portal, a Formula One history podcast by two Formula One nerds. I'm your host, Rosa.
And I'm your other host, Luigi. And today we're talking about the second part of the 1955 season. At least it's happier than the first part. So let's go.
Okay, so we're up to race 5, the Dutch Grand Prix. It's June 19. And there are 100 laps in this race and 16 drivers. And the grid formation is again a 3x2x3. The previous weekend had seen the Le Mans tragedy. We won't go back into that. But the Dutch organisers decided to let their GP go ahead as planned.
There must have been a pretty sombre feeling at this race. But if there's a positive, I like the symmetry that there's 100 laps. Something about that just makes me happy.
Okay, that's a new thing, Luigi. Now that I know that about you, but anyway,
yeah,
and yeah, I mean Hawthorn. Remember, Hawthorn's racing here, so yes, he had a big sort of role to play at the Le Mans. So I can only imagine how he's feeling as well. He actually is very dissatisfied with the Van Wall's performance. And he had a big argument with the owner and he walked out on the team. And he joined Ferrari, who had also...
Rejoined?
Yes, he rejoined Ferrari, who had also signed Castellotti from Lancia, as Farina was said to have retired.
I like the term was said to have.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, it sounds like a Ferrari press release.
Yes. Yes, and there's more on that one later. So I think I've used those words on purpose.
Oh, I see. Yes. I'm reading ahead now.
Yeah.
Yeah. The interesting thing is that I should have read ahead. Is that, that's the nature of this podcast. We're a bit fluid. That's nice, right? Yes. I mean, Hawthorn had a really good time with Ferrari last time, and I think him leaving under those circumstances with his father passing away and helping with the garage sort of derailed him a little bit because he was on the up and up and Ferrari had given him a green Ferrari for that first race.
Yes.
So it shows that there's some real connection there.
Yes. Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah. I can only imagine what that argument would have been like about his Van Wall. But, yeah. Not happy
I think it would have been crude words linked to poo.
Yes.
This car is a piece of something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it was again the Mercedes who performed in practice, with Moss setting the best time on the first day with 1 minute 40.4, but Fangio taking pole the next day with 1 minute 40 dead. Kling took third fastest, making it an all Mercedes front row.
Pretty tight.
Luigi Musso was fourth in a Maserati and Hawthorn qualified fifth in the Ferrari.
Yeah, and I make a big deal of this in later seasons of this podcast. But Luigi Musso is my name, of course. I had Fagioli, and he was the famous mic drop guy with Alfa Romeo. But it's good to see my name was cool back in the 50s. So all I need is some Hollywood hot people like Brad Pitt and all that to be given Luigi, to give their kids the name Luigi, and then I'm going to be all in. Right now I'm out of fashion, but boy, I was hot back then.
We're sort of back in fashion with the Mario Kart. I don't know. Was that fashionable?
Yeah, it's sort of like because I was the second character.
Yeah, that's true.
That's the problem.
Yeah,
I need to be Mario,
Yes. Okay, so Fangio makes another superb start and he takes the lead. But instead of Moss and Kling falling in behind him, it was Musso who followed him into the first corner.
You mean Luigi Musso?
Yes, Luigi Musso. Moss passed Musso under braking on lap 2, and from there, Moss and Fangio gave another demonstration of high-speed driving, being completely unchallenged.
Gee, it's like copy-paste of so many eras of domination like this.
Yes.
And it's nice to see it in a way because you're seeing history. This is like one of the first times we saw cars being 1-2 dominating. Like when Ascari was dominating, it was mostly him.
Yes.
This time it's like we've got the Mercedes, the Williams of the 90s 1-2s.
Yes.
Mercedes of the 2010s 1-2s. Red Bull, sort of.
Yeah. Perez let the side down a little bit there. But, yeah, he was there, like maybe 20, 23, 22, 21.
Yeah, he was, yeah.
Mears set the fastest lap of the race and was making his way up the grid, having started in 7th. At half distance, Fangio and Moss had an advantage of almost 20 seconds over Musso, and despite Mears' progress, he was about to be lapped in 4th. After this, it was quite boring. Some rain fell, which only made it harder to catch the leaders.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know if those words it was quite boring were your words, Rosa, or Mike Lang's, but
yeah, no, it was Mike Lang's. It was Mike Lang's.
It was Mike Lang.
Yes, it was.
He's the author of one of our reference books, so for him to write it, it's a pretty big deal. Yeah. So Moss was becoming known as Fangio's eternal shadow at this stage because he was never far behind. Moss was always improving his driving skills, and he was actually outperforming Hawthorn, who'd gone back to British and was having a bit of a bad time of it.
Yeah, well, for this race, he went back to Ferrari. But yes, Hawthorn. Yeah. Fangio and Moss first and second convincingly, Musso third, and Mears 4th.
You mean Luigi Musso
yes,
third?
Luigi Musso, yes.
Yeah. Let's just call him Luigi. Let's make it simple. Get him in on the podcast with us. He's probably not around.
No, I think that would be really difficult.
So Fangio's leading the championship pretty easily on 27. Moss has pulled himself up into second place with 13, so quite a way behind. And Trintignant's third in the Ferrari with 11 1/3 points. And Farina, who has seemingly retired, 4th on 10 1/3 points.
Okay, race 6, the British Grand Prix, July 16, 90 laps, 25 drivers, and a 3x2x3 grid formation. So for the first time since the beginning of the World Drivers' Championship, the British GP isn't being held at Silverstone. It's been moved to Aintree, just outside Liverpool.
And this race also saw the debut of Australian Jack Brabham driving a Cooper Bristol, which he had built himself by merging into the Cooper company, not as an employee, but just hung around and worked there.
That is hilarious.
So this is a bit like, it is, yeah. He started his career driving on dirt tracks in Australia, and it showed because of the way he drove. He was using full lock steering and lots of throttle, and the crowds loved watching his driving style.
He's an Australian legend, isn't he? He was we won't say too much, but he does quite well. And his nickname was Dirty Jack.
Yeah, I like that nickname. He is a very underrated driver. Yeah, he was a very underrated driver. We'll talk about him a lot more. Yep. He ain't no Perdisi or whatever the other guy's name was.
No, he's a big name player. Yeah. And he has a big role to play.
Yeah, absolutely.
So there was a lot of activity as drivers learnt this new track, but at the end of practice, Moss emerged with the fastest time in a short chassis Mercedes just ahead of Fangio. Berra in the Maserati broke up the 4 Mercedes qualifying third, with the other 2 Mercedes drivers, Kling and Taruffi, in 4th and 5th.
Oh, Taruffi's back.
Yep. I don't know where he went, but he's back. Moss and Fangio shared the lead during the first lap, with Berra hesitating at the start, or what we like to say, a nonsense start. I don't know that it was nonsense. Maybe he just hesitated.
No, not nonsense start implies... we should define nonsense. Is it a loss of 10 places?
I think it has to be like more than 5 places, surely.
Maybe more than percentage of the grid.
Yes.
How about that?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. We'll judge it, but yeah. Okay, let's keep going.
Fangio soon took the lead by a car's length, with Berra in third, having overtaken Kling and Taruffi. On lap 3, Moss took the lead from Fangio, and Berra lost third place to Kling. By lap 10, Moss and Fangio had the race sewn up, as Bearer had just retired with a broken tailpipe, and Kling, now in third place, was 30 seconds behind his teammates.
You're saying the race was sewn up. This is by lap 10. This is a 90-lap race. And from what you've said so far, the first 10 laps have been pretty exciting, except the last little bit when you talk about the retirements.
Yes.
So how can the race be sewn up? That's probably the words of the author, I'm guessing. But
It
let's
is.
see.
I mean, but 30 seconds. I mean, they had a 30-second. I mean, you're right. Anything can happen, but he had a 30-second lead on third place.
Yeah, true.
So the main interest at this stage was the battle for fourth place between Mears in the Maserati, Taruffi in the Mercedes, and Musso in the Maserati.
Luigi Musso, yeah.
It's Luigi. Brabham was losing ground and was soon lapped and eventually retired on lap 34 with a bent valve. The home crowd were cheering for Shell, who was now driving the Van Wall in eighth, but after 20 laps, the accelerator pedal broke and he was out of the race. So the British crowd really are now all behind Moss, I would say. The leaders stayed pretty much the same, though Mears, Taruffi and Musso had caught up to Kling. Fangio had taken the lead again on lap 18, but 8 laps later, Moss overtook him and the two drivers stayed together with less than a car length between them.
Hence, I think the shadow reputation that Moss got, I suspect.
Yeah. After 46 laps, Hawthorn suffered from the heat and handed his car over to Castellotti. Shell also decided to resume the race in his teammate Wharton's car after being delayed by 30 minutes with a broken oil pipe.
So Shell was out at lap 20, but took over Wharton's car after a 30-minute pit stop at lap 46.
Yep.
Sounds a bit dodge.
Does.
Like, why? I mean, the season's nearly over.
Yeah.
It's not like we're developing a car for the future.
Yeah, I don't
Something
know.
doesn't smell right, that's all. Maybe it's like, hey, if you take me to a car track and say, hey, Luigi, do 10 laps in this sports car, and then half an hour later, do you want to go again? Yeah, I'll go again.
Yeah, exactly.
That was fun. I'd love to do it again. Yeah.
So Mears in fourth also retired on lap 48 with engine issues, making it 16 of the 25 starters retired from this race. So Moss leads Fangio over the line by less than a car length with their teammates Kling and Taruffi third and fourth.
Yeah, there's always been arguments as to whether Fangio allowed Moss to win his home race. But when put to Fangio, he always just said that Moss was really quick that day and drove brilliantly. Even Moss has said that Fangio could have passed him easily multiple times in the race.
Well, I wouldn't be surprised if Fangio let him have that win. I wouldn't.
I think so too.
I don't know. He was pretty
brutal.
hard. He was hard though, wasn't he? Yeah. Maybe Moss
I
did
get
just...
the feeling if you were the gentleman, if not the gentleman, if you were totally like adoring the other driver, listen to everything they said, which I think Moss may have been towards Fangio. Fangio probably threw him a bone.
Yeah, possibly. And he had the championship sewn up at this point, I would have thought. So one interesting point here, Luigi, and I know we don't like to give spoilers, but we do like to point out big milestones.
Wait, before you say this is a monster spoiler.
This is. All right, mate,
this is
do you want me to say it or do you want me to not
55,
say it?
59 years. You're doing a 59-year spoiler. So for those of you that want to skip the next 59 years of your life... Yes. Okay, do the spoiler. It's a big enough spoiler that it's okay.
Yeah, and we'll find out why it's not that big a spoiler because, anyway, this would be the last full Mercedes podium until the 2014 Italian GP.
Yeah, 59 years.
Yeah.
I think I did my maths right.
Yes, but also...
That's pretty full on. It gives us a heads up about the next race, of course.
Does.
But ignoring that little giveaway, it's still an amazing statistic.
Okay, so what are the World Driver Championship standings, Louis?
Yeah, so Fangio leading with 33 points, Moss second with 22, both in the Mercedes, Trintignant third on 11 and a third points. So Trintignant stayed up there even though he hasn't scored much in the last few races.
He hasn't scored any points since he got that.
I know. And Farina's retired and he's fourth on 10 and a third. So those Ferraris are doing well for doing nothing, you know. Good on them.
So as we said, Le Mans happened before this race, and so after this race, the German, Swiss and Spanish Grand Prix were all cancelled. So really there's only one championship round left, which is the Grand Prix of the Italian Grand Prix. And so Fangio's points advantage over Moss means that he has won his third World Drivers' Championship and second in a row.
Wow. And you know what the interesting thing is? When Fangio allegedly let Moss win that British Grand Prix we've just talked about, he didn't know that there was only one more race to go.
Yes.
So he was taking a little bit he must have been supremely confident because maybe it was in the contract and maybe he just had confidence in his own skill set that he had this one in the bag.
Yeah.
Just saying.
Yeah, interesting. Okay, the last race of this season, race 7 is the Italian Grand Prix. It's September the 11th. There's 50 laps, 23 drivers, and the grid formation is a 3x2x3. There were some big changes made to this circuit, increasing the length. Look, I have read it's by 10 kilometres. There were 2 new banked curves added to the circuit. And it modified 2 right-hand corners into 1 sweeping right-hander, known today as the parabolica.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, they made some interesting things. We'll have to talk about this race in a minute. Well, we are going to talk about it, but some really weird things happen. So Farina is back for this race as well. And even more strangely, he's driving a Lancia. So both of those, Farina retired at the Dutch GP 2 races ago, and Lancia pulled out of F1 after Ascari's death back in May. So very strange.
Was said to have retired. Yeah,
yes.
That's where that came from.
Yes.
Yeah. Wow, interesting. And that Lancia looked good in Ascari's hands. Remember at the beginning of the race, he was on the front row of the grid and all that sort of stuff. So, yeah. And Farina's no young guy.
No.
He's in his mid-50s at this stage. And, you know, he's as old as the century is pretty much. That makes it easy for his age. So I've also read, due to financial difficulties, that the Italian Automobile Club persuaded the outgoing Lancia team, who had decided to withdraw because of Ascari's passing away, that persuaded the Lancia team to hand over their D50 cars to Ferrari, while Fiat agreed to contribute 50 million lira or £28,000 annually over the next 5 years to the Ferrari outfit.
Wow.
So interesting. Funny the domino effects. Because of Ascari passing away, Lancia pulls out. Lancia is persuaded to give their cars to Ferrari. And I haven't heard the lira thing for a long time because the euro's been in place for a couple of decades or more.
Yeah.
But isn't it funny to hear the old 50 million lira?
Yes, it is hilarious.
Line? It's almost comical, isn't it? Everyone's a millionaire.
So, but Ferrari were running out of money and they're not making a dent on the Mercedes.
Yeah, so they needed a car that was successful, and that Lancia was a good car. And this also meant a designer called Vittorio Jano, who had designed the very successful Alfa Romeo of 50 and 51, was joining, he didn't design it, but he must have designed it from World War II because that was a World War II car, was joining Ferrari's staff to continue developing cars, and the Ferrari designer Aurelio Lampredi leaving to join Fiat.
Wow.
So just a lot of big names. And this is the first time we're seeing recognition and acknowledgement given to some of these key players that are monster players now, like designers of engines, designers of cars.
Yes.
We think of Adrian Newey today as a key player in that Red Bull outfit, for example. These are the Adrian Neweys of the time.
So that makes sense. That's why there is a Lancia dash Ferrari entered into this Italian GP and Farina as the driver. So they sort of co-named the car Lancia Ferrari. The first practice session was restricted to only one part of the new track so that the drivers could get used to the new speeds up to 250 kilometres per hour and new braking points.
Let's not forget, these were done on relatively thin tyres, no slicks, no seatbelts. These guys were really going for it. You would not be allowed to do that today at those speeds. No. It'd be seen as a safety risk, and insurance wouldn't cover you. You'd be signing away everything if you did it.
Yeah. The second practice session saw the whole track open to the drivers, with Fangio setting the best time at 2 minutes 46.5, Moss and Kling joining him on the front row. The new track started causing problems though, especially with Farina's Lancia Ferrari, with the rear tread lifting numerous times and on one occasion resulting in a crash. This tread issue caused the withdrawal of the Lancia Ferrari for safety reasons, so Farina was designated a DNS for his final GP. Villaraci also did not start in the Lancia Ferrari, and Castellotti was given a spare Ferraro Tipo 555, or the Squalo, to drive in the race.
Yeah. And I realise now Farina was not in his mid-50s. He was 48 at this stage.
Okay.
But it is time to say goodbye to Lancia and Farina. It's only morning here in Australia as we record. And following his retirement, Farina became involved in Alfa Romeo and Jaguar distributorships and later assisted at the Pininfarina, his uncle's car design factory. Unfortunately, his story has a little bit of a sad ending, but linked to Formula One. He was on his way to the 1966 French Grand Prix as a driver on a normal road, and Farina lost control of his Lotus Cortina in the Savoy Alps near a place I'm not going to try to pronounce.
Okay.
He hit a telegraph pole and was unfortunately killed instantly. And the sad thing is he was actually on his way to both watch the French Grand Prix and to take part in filming and as an advisor and driver double of the French actor Yves Montand, who was actually playing an ex-world champion in the film Grand Prix. So we've mentioned this Grand Prix film a couple of times.
Yes.
Awesome film to watch. And it's sad to know that Farina died on his way to contributing to that film.
Yes. So back to the race. The day was warm and dry when the flag fell, and Moss made a great start going straight into the lead. By the end of the first lap, it was Mercedes 1, 2, 3, 4 in team order, with Fangio now in front, then Moss, Taruffi and Kling. Apart from Kling passing Taruffi on lap 5, there was no change to the leaderboard until lap 19, when Moss suddenly shot into the pits with a broken windscreen.
There were windscreens? I guess so.
I guess so, yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, well, this is the first time we're hearing of a windscreen, so it must have been, they must have been there.
Yeah, that's right. That's the rule. If we hear it first time in this book, then it's the first time it happened.
Yeah.
That's the rule. Yeah.
So Moss was soon on his way again, joining the race in 7th place with Fangio, Kling, Taruffi, Musso, Castellotti and Berra all ahead of him. Unfortunately, after setting the fastest lap and trying to gain lost ground, Moss was forced to retire on lap 28 when the engine gave way. Musso also was having trouble with his gearbox and after pitting several times gave up on lap 32 and retired from the race. Minutes later, Kling withdrew with the same issue.
Well, give me credit. I haven't said Luigi Musso for a while.
Yes.
That aside, yeah. Mercedes are starting to show cracks with 2 cars out with the same issue. So, yeah, a bit of a downer for them.
Yeah, last race. Hawthorn, who started from 14th, also retired with a broken gearbox mounting, and this only left 10 cars still on track with Fangio, Taruffi, Castellotti and Berra on the same lap.
Yeah, it looks like this new banking took its toll on the cars, and they needed more ground clearance.
Yes.
And nothing shows it more better than that 1966 Grand Prix movie where they do a lot of footage on those banking, and it's awesome. Sure, it's 66 cars, but you'll see what I'm talking about.
Okay. So the race ran to its conclusion with Fangio reeling off the remaining laps for another blitzing victory for Mercedes. Fangio's teammate Taruffi was just behind in second place, then Castellotti third in a Ferrari and Berra fourth in the Maserati, who was lucky to finish so well as his engine failed on the last lap and he limped to the line in a cloud of smoke.
Yeah, so championship standings, end of the season, was Fangio winning on 40 points, and I suspect that might be a record. Maybe not, actually. Ascari did get a lot with the one. Oh, that's right, with the points losses. That may have made it different. Moss second on 23 points in the Mercedes. Third, Castellotti in the Ferrari on 12. So finally, Trintignant's been overhauled. Yes. He comes fourth in the Ferrari on 11 and a third point. So he wasn't beaten by much. Then Farina on 10 and a third points. So Mercedes really dominated this season with their closest rival Castellotti in a Ferrari on only 12 points.
So also Mercedes had announced their intention to withdraw from Formula One racing just before this race to concentrate on its production car operation. So this was their last GP.
Yeah, and so when you've got announcements like this and they stick to it, unlike Farina's retirement announcement and 2 weeks later he's in another race, you get these interesting stats that go for a long time.
Yes.
So this was the last Grand Prix win for a Mercedes-Benz as an engine manufacturer until David Coulthard won the 1997 Australian Grand Prix.
Wow.
Maybe, Rosa, we can do these one each. What do you reckon?
Okay, yep. This is also the last Grand Prix win for Mercedes-Benz as a constructor until Nico Rosberg wins the 2012 Chinese Grand Prix.
And it was the last 1-2 finish for Mercedes-Benz as an engine manufacturer until Mika Hakkinen and David Coulthard at the 1997 European Grand Prix.
And the last 1-2 finish for Mercedes-Benz as a constructor until Lewis Hamilton and Rosberg at the 2014 Malaysian Grand Prix.
So a lot of big gaps.
Yeah. And I wonder why they decided, they say to concentrate on its production car. What's a production car? Is that their road car? Is that the...
Yeah, their road car. Everyone knew it was the Le Mans accident, and their car was involved in that accident. Yes. Yeah. Lancey withdrew. Mercedes withdrew.
Yeah. So
what's our final comments,
season
Rosa?
Wrap up. Yeah. It was a really sad season, and not only because of the Le Mans tragedy and so many spectators killed and injured. And Hawthorn and Macklin, they spent the rest of their lives talking about that incident. And a lot of people kind of unofficially blamed them individually for the accident at one point or another. And I think both of them wrote books, and it features heavily in there and how much it actually affected them. So, it was a pretty sad season.
And we lost Ascari, which was a massive loss to the industry. And then we lost Lancia and Mercedes for, we suspect, Le Mans reasons primarily.
Yes. Yeah. So, I'm sort of looking forward to seeing what 1956 has in store for us. Hopefully it's not so sad as this year.
Yeah, and I will say one thing. 1956 starts with a bit of a funny incident right at the start. So we'll be starting on a high. I'm in the process of prepping 56.
Okay.
And we're gonna have a good time.
Okay. Well, we do have a 3-time world champion looking for a seat, and also now Moss, who's he's made a bit of a reputation for himself as a good, accomplished driver. He's now looking for a drive. So that'll be interesting. See you then, everyone.
We've got a silly season starting. Yeah. Bye.
We have a Patreon.
Yay! We're a professional podcast now. So it means a lot to us if you are able to support the F1 Time Portal podcast.
For a small monthly fee, you not only get ad-free podcast content, you will also receive special episodes that are exclusively uploaded for our Patreon financial supporters.
We promise at least 2 additional exclusive episodes each month, aligned to the decade we are up to in the show.
And you will also be able to make suggestions about any special episodes you may want us to research and present. We can't promise that we can do all of them, but we will consider them.
So, if that sounds like an entertainment bargain to you, go and sign up at patreon.com/F1 Time Portal today.
If you're enjoying our podcast, please tell your friends and non-F1 friends alike.
Yeah, and don't forget to rate us 5 stars or whatever highest is available on the podcast platform that you use.
We have a range of social media handles for you to connect with fellow listeners, so look up F1 Time Portal on all the usual platforms.
Or visit us at www.f1timeportal.com or email us at f1timeportal@gmail.com.
We would like to give credit to our primary reference materials, a series of books called Grand Prix by Mike Lang.
We also use many other written and digital references, which are in our show notes.
Thank you for your support.
Thank you.